Hi, folks. Welcome to this live talk on healing or this healing circle. Today, I will be in conversation with Amari and Pierre, like every Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Cairo, Paris time, for those of you on the same side of the pond as me. So today we'll be talking about applying knowledge versus applying techniques when it comes to dealing with pain, right? So we'll give it a couple of minutes. Just before we get started, if you're ready, right, just take a breath. We're about to get started. As soon as Amari joins us, we'll get this conversation started around applying knowledge versus applying techniques, right, when it comes to dealing with pain. All right, and I see Amari just joined here. She should be here shortly. All right. And
Hi,
she is. Hello, hello.
how
Good
are
morning.
you?
Doing well, doing well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Good morning from this side, everyone.
Good morning to you. Good evening to me.
Yeah,
It is a nice day. I've been through it already. It's a nice Monday. So,
awesome.
so happy Monday to everybody. How was your weekend, Amari?
I'm good. Is today Tuesday?
It's good Tuesday. Oh wow! Happy Tuesday, everybody. It's been
Yeah,
a long weekend.
I'm just putting in the comments right now our title, Applying Knowledge versus Technique.
Applying knowledge versus technique. So while you're doing so, let me just do a brief round of introductions. My name is Pierre-Etienne, Pierre-Etienne Vanier. I'm a mind-body practitioner specializing in managing stress and helping people deal with trauma and recover from trauma. And I'm also the founder of the Healing Studio Online. And Amari, I'll let you introduce yourself while I pin that comment.
Sure. So my name is Amari. I am owner of Body and More Wellness. It is a chronic pain coaching platform that is virtual. For some people who are on the West Side in California, it can be in person. And what I do is I help those that have chronic pain adopt healthy lifestyle choices, stress management skills, and mindfulness techniques so that they can feel better and live better.
So I think you understood that we both, Amari and I, about self-healing, promoting healing and recovery. And today, again, we're going to talk about applying knowledge versus technique to heal, which I think is an important conversation. Why don't we start with, maybe let's just start with the breath, right? Shall we take a couple of breaths here just to get started?
Yes.
That breath is for you, it's for me, it's for those of you who are watching us live or watching that recording later. If you want to make the most out of what we're going to say, be able to hear and learn what you need to hear and learn. Let's just take another breath. So, why don't we start by defining or operationalizing a little bit the terms that we're using here? Applying knowledge versus techniques to heal. May I ask, Amari, what's your understanding of that topic? Or what does that mean?
Sure. So applying knowledge and versus technique. So applying knowledge is the understanding of your body, being connected to what your body signals, what your body needs, and also having knowledge of your nervous system, your mind, your body, your spirit, and understanding, okay, this is what you're saying, this is what I need to do for you to feel better, for me to feel better. And then applying technique. So applying technique can be those healing modalities. It can be going to the physical therapist or going to any healthcare practitioner and working on the body mentally and physically. But with applying technique, if you're applying the wrong technique at the wrong time, say early on in my chronic pain experience, I would apply certain techniques like I should journal because I should, and society says I should journal. But at the time, I was not in a place where I wanted to hear what my body had to say. And I was in a place where I was constantly pushing myself. So I was pushing myself to ridiculous limits that I knew I didn't have now that I had the chronic neck and back pain after my big accident. But yet I was just like, okay, I heard that journaling should help me with stress. And I would just journal, this is what I did today. And it was so out of tune with anything that needed to be done for my healing experience. It was just me doing the process and just me applying the tool, but it was me ignoring and not having any knowledge about my body, my mind, my spirit, and what it needed. So doing the two separately is ineffective, but doing them together can be amazing for one's healing journey.
Yeah. So thank you for that. So maybe let's take a step back before we go a little deeper into that conversation. So again, we're saying, right, it's not technique or knowledge, obviously, just to, basically get to the conclusion of that conversation. We're talking about doing both. The importance of doing both. And again, when we say applying techniques, the way I understand is that it's to follow guidelines, ways to measure my progress or ways to engage in my healing, in a way that's not customized, that's not adapted to my needs, right? And when we talk about knowledge, we are talking about, as far as I understand it, as I hear it, it is about self-knowledge and being able to make that healing a process that feels safe, that feels manageable. And so today, maybe, and with the roadmap, right? That words keeps on coming back for me. Like, what am I trying to do? What am I trying to achieve? So maybe let's look into pros and cons of applying techniques and applying knowledge, knowing that obviously we are talking about doing both. So just for the sake of, being a devil's advocate, let's start with applying techniques, right? Why applying techniques, right, to heal can be, what's the pros, or why, I think a lot of people are going into techniques. The pros for me is because, well, it's easy, it's easier. It's not necessarily easy, but it's easier, right? I was told that I need to do this every day and for that amount of time, and therefore, if this is what I need to do. There's no real adjustment here. This is just, something that is fixed, that's easy to understand, that's easy to apply. And it's simple, right? Oftentimes adapting to my own needs, my own body requires a whole bunch of things that we'll get into in a few minutes, in a few moments. And so really just saying, apply that technique and you do that technique. It's easy, it's simple. You don't have to think about it. Can you think of other pros of just applying techniques for healing?
So I'm not sure if this is fall under the category necessarily like black and white pro, but in my experience, when I was applying techniques like going to physical therapy and journaling and any other thing that I was doing at the time, it gave me a sense of relief to know that, okay, other people have done this technique and it's worked for some of them, so maybe it will help me. So it gave me relief and hope that there was something out there, regardless of the technique, that has been done by many people for hundreds of years or for however long. And it gave me that sense of hope that eventually maybe this could help me.
Yeah. And I'm looking at the comment from Sid Cassis, my brother from Canada here, reminding us that you don't have to feel to apply techniques. Thank you, brother, for the reminder. The word that comes up for me is mechanical, right? That it's like I'm just gonna and I hear what you're saying, Amari, around like, well, EMDR, this process, like, it is evidence based, and therefore, if I do it, it'll work for me. Um, and and it's heartbreaking because I've seen so many people engaging in these techniques, in these modalities, um, and the problem, if I was to go into the cons of really like following, well, this is the protocol, follow that protocol, and therefore you should get results, is that it can lead to over practicing, which the first thing that comes to mind is self-care burnout for me, and for a lot of people that I'm talking to. It's like, well, I was told meditation is good, so I'm meditating an hour every day, and for some reason I'm not feeling at peace, right? And I'm like, oh, this makes sense, right? But since you haven't been given a roadmap, you don't understand that maybe you're moving in the right direction. So over practicing, that can create a sense of overwhelm, right? I have to do this. The technique in itself, I think, becomes a burden for a lot of people, as opposed to being a lifeline, as opposed to being something that's helpful for them. One more thing, right? How many of people who joining? Some of you know that I work with people dealing with cancer, and the earlier they join the groups that I lead around mind-body practices, stress management, trauma recovery, nervous system regulation, the better it is. And yet, how many of them tell me, you know what, it's just, Ryan, there's just too much going on. I can't just add one more thing, because in their mind, it's like, it's gonna have to be that thing that they will have to stick to. And I feel like there's a lack of compassion oftentimes, and self-compassion. I'm obviously talking about myself primarily here. A lack of self-compassion in using these tools, right? So over practicing, leading to overwhelm, to burnout. Under practicing is like, well, I've been doing this, a minute every day or 5 minutes every day or whatever amount of time. Yeah. But somehow, let's say that person this person's nervous system is in such a state of overwhelm that you need a little bit more than the little that you're doing. And maybe you've been doing it every day. And here, what I'm thinking of right now is like the number of clients that have come to me saying, hey, I've been in therapy for like 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years of therapy. Wow. And it's like, and I'm not sure this is really helpful. And there's part of me that's like, wow, that's a long trial period. Like maybe 5 years into it, you might have shifted. And I'm saying that with compassion, because I understand when you're stuck, right? And you were told that this is what you need to do. Yet again, if this is not helping me and I keep on doing it, there's a sense of frustration that's gonna emerge and say, like, this is not working, nothing, it's not going to change ever. It's always going to be the same thing. Right. And how sad,
How sad. Yeah. I was definitely thinking when you were talking about overdoing it and under practice, that leads to frustration. And personally, it led to frustration with a lot of my clients. It leads to frustration because they're like, I've been doing it. Why isn't it working? And then that frustration can lead to feeling like, okay, maybe I'm the one that's broken, not the technique. And then that could just throw everything up in the air, or let it all fall down, really. And then on top of that helplessness, if one doesn't go towards the helplessness state, it could also lead to internal rage. And that internal rage would make the body even more oversensitized and feeling threatened and not going in the direction of rest and digest. So yeah, it's like it's a negative cycle if one doesn't find that self-knowledge and that self-compassion, and they practice for 40 years, or even if it's 5 years. For me, I got frustrated at one or 2 years, you know? So it's anyone's own capacity. But yeah, doing practices and them not working, and then then realizing, okay, it worked for some people, so what's wrong with me? And then either the internal rage of negative self-talk, or just feeling helpless, and the two of those lead to more pain, which is exactly what we're trying not to do.
Thank you, Amari. So before if you allow me, before I comment on that, and before we shift on to like, what does that mean really to apply knowledge? Once again, I'm in conversation with Amari Dior. Amari is a life coach specializing in pain management based in Marina del Rey, California. I'm Pierre-Etienne Vanier, mind-body practitioner specializing in stress management and trauma recovery. I'm based in Cairo, Egypt. We're both serving a global clientele online. And we're discussing here applying knowledge versus technique in order to heal. So again, just reflecting, inviting, those of you who are joining us live, if there's any comments, reflections, just like earlier, Sid Cassis was mentioning, you don't have to feel to apply techniques, right? We can do things in ways that are very mechanical, but unfortunately, they may not yield too much results, at least in my personal experience, because it is about reconnection. B. Arona Blackshire mentioned, what worked for me was meditating, what complete wholeness felt. No more chronic pain, but actually feeling it. So let's go there, right? Let's go there, because for me, I think the biggest frustration around people applying protocols and techniques, despite the fact that they are tempting because they're more simple and you just have to do what's written, is that they don't take into consideration our uniqueness. They don't take into consideration both who we are, right, as a whole person, but also if you're to come at the micro level, let's say if you're about to start a practice, how many of us really ask ourselves the question before we start practicing, okay, where am I right now and where am I heading to? In other words, I think a question that is missing for most of us, right, when we work on our healing, is that right here, right now, in that moment, I'm about to engage in a practice. What is my current baseline? What is the state of my nervous system? And therefore, what are the kind of results, right, or outcomes that may come out of this practice?
Right.
Because how many people, and I'm very happy to see that the Arona Blackshire, meditating worked for you, complete wholeness, and about feeling that pain, and we'll go there in a second. But I just want to mention that how many people, going back to the example of meditation, since we're on it, how many people arrived in my office and be like, I don't get it. I've been meditating and I'm getting angry. I'm in pain. I'm feeling all of this. This is not working for me.
Right.
Why? Because society has sold us the idea that, hey, meditation is going to bring you inner peace, right? You're going to feel whole. You're going to feel complete. You're going to feel blissed. You're going to start to levitate. And if it doesn't work, it's because you're not doing it well. And that's frustrating. That's frustrating to hear, because for people to understand that the state of your nervous system will determine the outcome of your practice is such a crucial piece, that if maybe you're in a lot of pain, you're feeling a lot, and you're able to settle your nervous system, right? That means a little bit more space, a little bit less discomfort. That's great. However, no, that if you're starting from a place of being in a complete shutdown, I'm in a
Right.
state of overwhelm, I'm frozen, I'm checked out, right? And going back to be Arona Blackshire here, but actually feeling it, then your reconnection to this sensation, to this inner experience that goes from numbness to
Right.
actual feeling is a step in the right direction,
Exactly.
right? And I want to repeat that one more time for people
Right.
to hear it and to let it sink in. That if you move from numbness to feeling it, this is a step in the right direction for you to heal. And as unpleasant and frustrating as it may be, and I speak from personal experience, please know that that moment when you reconnected to yourself, when you felt it, right, is a step in the right direction of your healing.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Any comments or reflection on that before I have more to share on that, but I'm going to stop for a second.
No, I totally agree because just like I was mentioning earlier, my personal experience that I was doing these things and I was so out of tune, I didn't practice what should I be expecting, nor did I even do step one, which was recognize where I'm at in my nervous system and my radical acceptance journey. I was in total denial, which me being in total denial of the fact that I was in pain, the fact that this pain had lasted so long, was also me ignoring myself and me not asking those questions. And so it did make things frustrating, and I wasn't able to see any progress in things because I didn't ask those questions. And I wasn't interested in feeling. And it took a very long time for me to study the naturopathy and to study health coaching, and also to work in a physical therapy clinic where I was surrounded by other people that were in pain that needed compassion. And I was able to offer that compassion through just me seeing it as, this is my job. I love this job. I'm going to offer compassion because I see a person in need. But when I went home, I was not giving myself that compassion. I was like, you have this under the control. You help other people. It's fine. And it really took me to slow down and reflect on myself and connect with myself and ask myself those hard questions, and not just journal about my day, but journal about my feelings and my physical sensation, my emotional response to those sensations. And that's what led me to feel again, and then led me to understanding what practices I needed to do, and then understanding what those practices will do for me in my particular state.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a few keywords in what you said that I want to repeat, which was connection to self, right? And how tempting is it to not connect to self when in pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'm speaking from personal experience here, but acknowledging it, that it is, the numbness is tempting, and the numbness is a normal response, right? There is an elegant design in that nervous system that when the pain gets so much, we shut down, right? So I see that as a divine compassion, really, and yet let's know that staying there is actually, as it's less unpleasant, but the longer we stay there, the more difficult it'll be for the further away we're moving away from ourselves and others.
Exactly.
Right. So the connection, the reflection, as to like, okay, I'm gonna connect, even for a few moments, what's going on with me. And the most important thing that you mentioned is the slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that again with compassion, because I understand, like, so many people are like, hey, I've been practicing that for a year. Like, what do you mean, like, slowing down? Like, this is slow enough. I need results already.
Right.
And yet let's understand that paradoxically, it is that slowing down that is more likely to yield greater results. And
Right.
so, and I think that's what a lot of people, including myself, right, before I studied all of this and went through my own personal healing journey, which I'm still on, which is like, well, if the more I do, the more I should be getting results. And
Right.
I think that's a big problem, because this is not how the nervous system works, right? It's not the more I do, the more results. And and I speak, for example, one of the practice I teach, which we've brought it up a couple of times in the past, around therapeutic tremors, which is how to turn on
Right.
gentle vibrations in the body. It is an impactful practice on the nervous system. So can be meditation and breath work and like so many practices, right, in your toolkit and mine, and that even though they're safe, they're self-managed, let's remember, people, that they're also powerful practices,
Right.
right? And so for me to acknowledge that maybe what I need today is to
Mm.
practice for 5 minutes, maybe for 2 minutes. Maybe I actually need to take an intentional long exhale, because that's all the space and the bandwidth I have in that moment, right? Am I making sense here? Because that the fact that I've had people coming into my office saying, I've learned these tremors or that practice, so many other stuff, like,
Mm.
and I've done a lot of it, and I don't know why. I have difficulty sleeping. I'm not hungry anymore. I'm like, yeah, your nervous system is out of whack. You're just completely dysregulated, because it's not the more you do, the greater. Here, the greater the results. Here, I think in healing, as far as I see it, oftentimes less is more in terms of practices.
Mm.
Right? I'm in my second decade as a practitioner. This is, if I've learned something, if something evolved in my practice, it is how long are these practices,
Mm.
right? And it seems that the more I practice, the shorter they become. Why? Because that feels easier to engage in that practice. If it's 2 minutes versus 10 minutes versus 20 minutes, right?
Right.
Number two, it probably feels more manageable, not just time-wise, but also in terms of your nervous system being able to integrate whatever is going to come up, right?
Mm.
If I connect to pain for a few seconds versus I connect to pain for like 5 to 10 minutes,
Mm.
how long can I really connect,
Yeah.
right? And that's my invitation for people here. When we talk about applying knowledge, we're talking about obviously self-knowledge. We're talking about having a roadmap of your nervous system, about understanding what we're trying to do. When we try to heal, what does that mean? That means connecting to self. That means integrating some pain, some traumas. And guess what? We can't really jerk our nervous system back into safety.
Mm.
That process has to be done slowly,
Mm.
gently. And if you're going to repeat practices, I'm inviting people to repeat short practices that may bring up an awareness of physical, emotional, different types of pain and discomfort. Well, maybe just these few moments of awareness is exactly what you need, and then you can move on with the rest of your day. You don't have to like lock yourself up in the dark for 3 hours crying because you're processing stuff. It doesn't have to be like this. Right?
Right.
So I think pacing ourselves in this healing is crucial.
It is crucial. It's crucial. And there are too many people that I've spoken with, that I've worked with, that they could be in a tremendous flare up. And in a flare up, not wanting to feel, but feeling all the feels, the physical feelings, and going through the negative thoughts and the negative emotions towards your the self. And I would speak with them, and I'd say, "Well, okay, I'm so sorry that you're in a flare up right now. What did you do for yourself?" This would be like the next day or whenever is the next time I see them. Said, well, I still practice all of my exercise because I'm supposed to daily. you know? I said, well, how did you do that if you were in so much pain? How long did you do that? For an hour, like I was supposed to, or whatever the example might be. And this is the main reason why I got into this field and I started coaching, was because I said, well, where was yourself in that? You know, where was the kindness to, where was the love? Where was the empathy? You know, if a friend of yours, if your best friend, or if your mom or your sister or your brother, if they were in pain, would you tell them to go run on a track because you're supposed to? You know, and it really took me saying this over and over to other people for me to apply it to my life. That if you're in pain, if we're in pain, if we're in a flare up, don't live by society's shoulds, you know? And it's okay to drop a habit that has been causing you pain and has been taking so much of your time, and that causes frustration or causes you not to feel good about yourself, feel that broken sense. It in that moment, it's time to listen to your body. When we have those pain signals, it's time to listen. And if that means to do 2 minutes of gentle stretching, 5 minutes of gentle stretching, instead of doing a whole physical therapy routine that takes an hour because one has been in physical therapy for 3 years and has all these programs. If it means to take it easy that day and to reconnect with yourself, or reconnect, if it meant for me to reconnect with myself, I use the I term, is that's what I needed, you know? That was what was more helpful for me at that time, was to just say, I'm in pain, I'm recognizing it, I need to learn what I need, so let me just slow down and listen. And if I only can do 2 minutes today, or if I only have the energy enough to rest, I'm not going to judge myself. I'm not going to get hard on myself. You know, I'm worth slowing down for.
I'm worth slowing down for, yes. Right. This is a powerful message, you know, and I keep on reminding myself, I keep on reminding, you know, the people I'm working with. And I feel like, in summary, as we're coming towards the end of this live, you know, like you said, how much love is in that healing process? I think that's a big question that gets ignored, frankly speaking, right? Like, because it is about technique, it's about protocol, it's about getting things done, it's about charts and about performance, and yet, like you said, right, if it was your kid, your partner, your best friend, you know, would you tell them to do that, or would you really say, hey, just, you know, take it easy? It's amazing how in my groups, when I just invite people to just, you know, just give themselves some time to heal, then like that reminder that it takes time to heal is so important, and that's kind of what I want to, you know, these are my last few words for today, is to take time to heal. I understand the frustration. I felt it. I feel it every now and then, right? That, I'm not healing fast enough. Let's just remember that that means that there's still something to learn, right? Like we've mentioned in previous conversations here, there's still something to learn from it. I'm again speaking from personal experience based on some old pain that came back a few weeks ago when COVID, you know, kicked in, and I was like, oof, there's still some more for me to learn, for me to walk my talk. Number two, let's build a relationship. Let's restore a relationship with ourselves, right? Build on values like love, compassion. Can I right now give myself permission to shorten my practice, to skip my practice? I've had people in the midst of their practice with me when I was checking, and I was like, what's going on with you right now? They're like, that feels like a lot, but it's okay, I can take it. And
Uh,
I was like, and that was, you know, and for full disclosure, they were, I was working in a school district in the US with teachers who were overworked, underpaid, right? And I have a lot of teachers in my family. So I'm saying that in support and solidarity. Um, but there's a culture of like, it's okay, you know, I can take it. And I'm going to self-sacrifice myself for the good of, fill the blank, the
yeah,
kids, my family, and so on and so forth. And when really there's no such thing, right? You're sabotaging yourself, and you're modeling this. I'm modeling this. If I'm modeling self-sacrifice, this is what my kids are going to learn from me, right? This is what my
uh,
kids are going to learn from me, and so on and so forth. So here it is a call, right, to all that are listening, and a reminder to myself also to restore, to rebuild that relationship to myself by combining not just techniques, right, but also a knowledge of self, which
mhm.
again, all spiritual traditions, you know, are encouraging us for self-knowledge, right? Um, know yourself, right?
Right.
So here for me, that's also, that brings the spiritual component into that healing, which is like the deeper you go into self, in my personal experience, the deeper you go also into that spiritual experience, because healing is a spiritual experience among many other things. And I think if we bring back that spiritual component into the healing process, I'd like to think that there will be a little bit more compassion. We're not
Yeah,
robots, right? We've said like techniques can be mechanical. Let's bring back some humanity into healing.
right. Thank you.
Anything you'd like to add, Amari, before we wrap it up?
Let's see. You said so much, and
Or
I
not?
agree with everything. And um, the self-sabotage, just quickly, because I see a relation to it, which is that the self-sabotage can form expectations if you do it enough. If one does it enough. So self-sabotage for me was overworking and work, overworking and not asking for help. And eventually that turned into forming an expectation of myself that I had to live up to. And then also I felt like my work at the time and my family and friends had a certain expectation that, okay, she was fine, even though she said she was in pain, and she was still able to do this. So she should still do it, you know? And that expectation led to boundaries not being set. And it also it would lead in my life to me not listening to those signals and then not having that self-love. So I see a very big cycle and trend of um, ignoring the body causing big, big consequences and then causing even more pain and negative consequences. So thank you so much for sharing that. The whole point of this, you guys, is to combine the two. So you can do the techniques. Techniques have worked for several years for several people. But like Pierre, you mentioned before, it is crucial to ask ourselves, where are we right now in this moment? Where are we allowed to feel, and where are we feeling safe? Is there self-compassion? Is there love? Am I understanding what I need right now? And is doing an hour too much? Is doing 2 minutes too little? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Amari. Again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. All the links will be um, down there in that post. We will be back next week, next
Yes.
Tuesday, right? Because today's Tuesday, it's not Monday. We'll be back next Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. Cairo, Paris time. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Amari. Everybody have a beautiful day. We'll,
And everyone, anyone who's watching this, if you have any questions, healing questions, pain management questions, please DM either Healing Studio Online, PE Vanier or Body and More Wellness, and we would love to do a live on your question and answering that and coming from our own personal experience and professional experience. Thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Peace.
Bye.